Okay. Hi, good morning, Anna. How are you?
Hi, I'm very good.
Great. So, Anna, today I'll be asking you 5 questions about your stories in hospitality. And my first question will be, what do you do and how long have you been working in hospitality?
Okay, currently I'm unemployed, unfortunately,
Mhm.
because COVID has hit us quite hard, I think
Yeah,
the industry especially.
yeah.
But I have been in hospitality for 14 over years. So that is when I was, yeah, almost from 15 years old, I started working in cafes and restaurants and things like that.
Wow.
14 years.
Great. Okay. And what drew you in hospitality in the first place?
What brought me into the hospitality is when I was 16 years old. I was in school and I needed a part-time job. and I was, for the longest time, trying to get out there and trying to get a part-time job. And my parents would be really against it because they were like, you don't need this, why would you go, and stuff like that. But I just really, I was very active as a kid.
Mhm.
So then my friend in school told me that, hey, why don't you go to this place where we always hang out at? And it was this absolutely lovely, adorable cafe, which was French, Chocolaterie de Pierre. And it's like, why I'm saying this name is because it was full of chocolates, literally. Like it had, we made our own truffles, we made our own cakes. It was just chocolate freaking everywhere. It
Oh
was
my
amazing.
God.
So the space was created by an Estonian guy, and he loved France. So in this one little spot, he created his own little France, basically. I was obsessed with France back then, so I was like, okay, this is perfect. So I went there and Um, I worked with him for about 3 years, part time because I was still in school. So I did some morning shifts there, evening shifts there, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the culture of it. I loved serving people. I didn't know what I was getting into, but I just fell in love with it over there.
Mhm.
I think then the fact that, okay, it was like a French cafe and everything, then my parents suggested that, okay, if you like this so much, why don't you go to France and actually study hospitality?
Oh,
Never in my life, in my childhood, I thought that I'm going to study outside because, I don't know, all my classmates were like, oh, we're all going to stay here. We're all going to stay in Estonia and, and reunite when we have kids and etc. But then I was presented with this opportunity and I was like, okay, let's grab it, let's go. If my parents are able to support me, why not to take the leap? And it's France. I love France. So I went to study in a little city called Nîmes.
mm,
I studied there hospitality management, and that lasted for 3 years. It was a hell of a journey, honestly. It was difficult. It was amazing. It was fun. It was like all sorts of emotions. I have great memories of it, and I'm very grateful for that time because those 3 years showed me what actual hard work is
mhm,
um, in absolutely all aspects of hospitality.
mhm.
While like with my part-time position back then, it was just a short introduction of what it could be, but then I got actually to study every single aspect of hotel, of a restaurant, etc. So that's how I got introduced to hospitality industry.
Great. And after all that hard work in the hotel school, you still went back to hotels anyway, right? You still went back to hospitality because was it addictive?
It was definitely addictive, and I mean the connections that you make in hotels or even in school, right? It was just absolutely wonderful. So my journey, the way our bachelor's worked in France is that we studied for 3 years. Each year there was about
Stagiaire.
5 months, 5 months
Mm,
of studies and 5 months of internship.
mm,
So internship we had to, for the non-French, for the expats, let's say, students from abroad, we had to do our first internship in France. And then the next ones we could choose whether we want to go to England, we want to go to Brussels, we want to go to Amsterdam, like wherever we wanted to be placed, basically.
mm,
Um, and then also within the 5 months of studies that we were in school, so our whole block was school, so uni and like classrooms. Then there was, sorry, first of all, it was our dorms. So it was a huge ass block. So
Mm-hmm.
dorms, school, and then the hotel attached to all of it.
Ah,
So we had literally our own practice hotel that was a working hotel. There was
yeah.
customers all the time, and it was one of the best hotels in that city. It was a 4-star hotel. So it was an amazing experience to have and work directly at the hotel. So all our practical weeks within the 5 months that we had classes and practical weeks again. So we were thrown into kitchen, into the back office, into the reception, laundry, pastry, housekeeping, all the aspects of hospitality. Literally, we went through all of them throughout this study period.
Mm-hmm.
And then the internship came, and my first internship I did in Cannes, which was
Oh, nice.
amazing because I got to witness Cannes Film Festival. I
Oh,
got to
wow.
witness a lot of stars
Ah,
and celebrities, and so I was supposed to do 2.5 months of reception and 2.5 months of breakfast service.
mm-hmm.
6 in the morning, sorry, I think it was 6 in the morning. So I had to wake up around 5 a.m. and then go to do the breakfast service, leave around 3 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I started with the breakfast service actually instead of the reception. And then after the breakfast service of like 1.5 months, the bar manager in the evening shift, I got along very well with everybody. He came to me and he's like, listen, basically I'm leaving the job, I'm leaving to another city, and I would like you to take over the restaurant operations. I am first year student, have no idea what I'm doing, and here's a bar manager who comes to me and says, hey, why don't you take over? Like, first year student. I was like, okay.
Why not?
Why
Yeah.
not? And I absolutely loved it, and I got to manage my own operations. It was super scary because literally I just got into this, and I just got to like experience and start working properly, and here I am managing something already. And so I think that helped me a lot to stay passionate about this whole hospitality industry. A similar thing happened in my next internship in Brussels, and I just had such she's still my absolute idol, and I absolutely love her. My boss, who was reception front desk manager, she was absolutely wonderful. She was like a second mom to me, and like she taught me everything. She was so kind. She was so passionate about it. She really thought it from not a, not a manager position, but like she was mentoring me,
Yeah.
and that has stuck with me throughout the years. Like I always remember in certain situations what she said, what
Mm-hmm.
she suggested me to do.
Yeah.
So I think having those people in my life and having those opportunities thrown at me like that has definitely helped me to stay very passionate about this industry.
Oh my God. I am so like, I'm awed, right, with your story. It's quite, the thing is, I find that our industry is quite interesting because sometimes we hear that experience is so important, that you need to have like 30 years of experience before you can get into the next level or get into a higher management. But a lot of times, when you actually display some kind of competencies and people see that spark in you, you actually get opportunities because if you work hard and you show the passion for it, it's just like boom, the
Yeah,
opportunities might just come at you, right? And it's your job to take it. And if you take
yeah,
it, yeah,
exactly.
run with it,
You take
right?
it or you leave it. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, that's beautiful. Oh my God, Anna. I hope I didn't take any little stories away from the next question for you.
Go
Because
ahead.
now I want you to tell me what is the most memorable incident you ever had, working in hospitality, because already you've shared some really beautiful stories with me and I can't wait to hear more.
Okay, I have honestly 15 years of experience. I have tons of them. Uh, from celebrities that I've served in, like during Cannes Film Festival.
Mhm.
In Brussels, I worked in a 5-star hotel, which was also very recognized and very central. And we had I've served Beyonce, I've served Nicole Kidman, I've
Oh,
served Robbie Williams. Back in Canada, I served what's her name?
say George Clooney. Say George
Kaya.
Clooney.
No, I have not seen him. I would like to.
Me too.
I don't want to say the name incorrectly, but Kaya Scodelario, I think. She was in Skins in like a youth series. And I remember her, and I was like, what, 17? Okay, I was 18 back then, and I was watching this series. And then she comes in front of me and she's like, hey, can I have a cappuccino, please? And then she goes and sits at the bar. I'm just like completely stunned, like, was that just her? Like, she was literally like, I was watching her like the night before. I saw you on my screen, and then you're in front of me. So like, this was really cool to see all these celebrities come in and out. Like Nicole Kidman is absolutely amazing as personality, and you would think that she would be difficult, you know, but all that, I think my I'll give you two stories. Okay, one is not so pleasant for me, will be probably amusing for others.
No.
But and one is good. I'll start with the good one.
Okay.
It's the one that has also influenced me and has always pushed me forward and has motivated me to continue in this industry. That was also in Brussels, and we had customers of very high profile staying with us who would do fast check-in, fast check-out, meaning that they usually don't want to come to the counter, they just in and out, and we're supposed to know when they're in and out. So we would know their flight details, would know their taxi driver name, stuff like that, or like private jets, pilot name, whatever. And there was this one lady who used to come like maybe every 2 weeks. She would stay in a private suite, and she would like always just come in and out, so disappear basically. She was very high profile, and she used to stay with her family as well. But then something happened, and she had to come down to the reception to complain about somebody, or something was missing. I don't exactly remember. And then I was there, and I had this image of her like, you know, she'll be very bossy, and she'll be very rude, and she'll be very like entitled. And then comes this lady in front of me, and she's like super sweet, and she's like, oh, listen, this was missing from my room, I would like this and that. And I just melted over there, and I was like, are you, sorry, like I couldn't even say her name, and I like stumbled on her name, and she's like, yes, it's me, relax, breathe, okay, now get it done, please, darling. And then she left. But then she like came to, apparently after my shift ended, she came to ask for me, who was this girl and everything. And then she, next day she came down back to the reception. She's like, Anna, listen, you're such a sweetheart. Can you do this for me? So she liked me, and she started asking me to do stuff for her, like if something was missing or if she needed something. And usually she would only speak to one concierge, and you know, that was like her guy to go. If she needed something, he was the guy to go. That was my first year working in that hotel. I think I was on my second month. I was still very like new and very getting used to the system and all. And I became her favorite, and every time she would come, I would be there. And my shift, like I would ask my boss to put me on shift whenever she's there. And every single time, she was a very generous woman as well. She left 500 euros tip for every single staff pretty much who was serving her. That was a lot of money. Yes.
Yes.
And but you know, like everybody got their envelopes with the money inside and whatever tip they got. And for me, she always wrote a little letter with saying like super sweet stuff, and it's like, oh, thanks a lot for your service, you know. I didn't think that I did anything extraordinary. But then now we're friends on Instagram, and she still follows me, and she still messages me like, how are you? Congratulations, and this and that, and like, happy birthday, Merry Christmas. She sent me a card with like Merry Christmas family picture. And she told me this one thing. She's like, you were a human. You were not a robot when you spoke to me. And I was like, oh, okay, now I understand. You know,
I've got goosebumps, babe. I've got goosebumps, my dear. Oh my goodness.
So that
Like
was like a very,
seriously.
yeah, very memorable. And I always like, and because it's still till the day we are friends pretty much. And she's a lady in her 70s. So like, I love her to bits, honestly.
Oh my.
Okay, sorry, I'm going a little bit long. And then the
No,
second
it's
story
lovely.
is in another hotel, five-star hotel as well. And that was my second internship. My second internship, and I did business development and marketing. So out of the service line and more into back office operations. And I did not click with my boss, with the lady who ended the same school as me 1 year before me, basically. So she was the top class, and then so this was her first job after the school, after the internship, after school. And so we were same age actually. And because again, I'm very easy with people and I got along with everybody quite quickly, she disliked me a little bit for that, or she found some sort of competitiveness with me maybe. But so I did a boo-boo. I was bitching about her with my colleague in another department in reservations via email. And instead of sending that email and saying that, oh, I can't stand her and I can't keep up with her rudeness and her moodiness and her this and that. And she said, and that email that I sent to my colleague, to my friend, by mistake was sent out to all the staff. So instead of sending it to only one person, I sent it to the whole hotel together with the directors and everybody. So it's a huge lesson that I've learned from my side, that never ever, if you have something to say it in the person's face, okay? And yeah, whatever you have to say it in the person's face, or don't say it at all. And especially not on email. And I got it called into director's office of our whole hotel, and he was like, listen, this wasn't, like, I learned my lesson from it, definitely. With that person, the girl who was my manager, we ended up in very good relationship, and we talked it over and everything. But that was like one thing that I always till now remember, like, okay, Anna, if you have something to say about a person, maybe say it to the person instead of reaching like behind the back, because karma gets you. So yeah, that's another funny story that I've had.
And super memorable as well. You will
Yeah,
never forget.
definitely.
It's like a lesson to be learned forever. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much for sharing. I know it must be quite vulnerable as well to share that, especially the second story, right? But I think everyone needs to hear this. It's being open, like open communication actually works so much better. And a lot of times in our industry as well, we just gossip around, or like we just talk amongst ourselves and we don't
Yeah.
raise the issues. So yeah, open communication,
I
that's
think
great.
especially for managers as well, it's very important for the managers to be able, if they feel already that your employee might have some sort of discomfort with you, go and talk to them
Yeah,
before it blows up in
blows
some
up.
sort of way in somebody's face. So
Yeah,
yeah, she learned her
great.
lesson from that as well. Yeah.
So good. Okay, so Anna, the next question I have for you is something quite pressing that I like to ask. So, what is one thing you want to keep in this industry, and
Mm.
one thing that you want to change for the future of this industry?
Okay. Okay. One thing that is very important, and we need to say it out loud as much as possible, is that hospitality is nothing without human touch. We know it, but we need to keep it as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we cannot lose that aspect, and that's something that I would always like to keep, at least in my work, in my team, in my surrounding. I worked in hospitality in Europe, and I worked in hospitality in Asia, in Singapore. There is a very big gap in Asia from what I feel in service. And I'm coming from the perspective of a client, I'm coming from the perspective of a customer, and also employee, as a manager and as a service staff.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big gap in understanding what service is about, I think, in Asia, and unfortunately a lot, and it comes from, it's a very long and a big topic to discuss, but in short, what I feel and what I've experienced here for the past 6 years is that the staff here, and I'm not talking of management, I'm talking of entry level, are taking the hospitality aspect as part-time job, as I just need to earn quickly, and then, I'm out. Or the hours are too long, the job is too hard, we're unpaid. So it's always kind of, nobody sees it as hospitality as a good thing. They see it as something that, oh, fine, I'll do it, without any passion. It comes from the fact that the staff is unpaid. The management, I think, here is also not approaching this matter enough. But there is this problem that the service here lacks of humanity, human touch. So I would like to somehow in future contribute to that and change that, definitely. So that's one. And two, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to that point, because
yes,
I was saying the difference between Europe and Asia. In Asia, in Europe, it's the same. We're unpaid, we work long hours and this and that, but the human touch is still there. People are super passionate about serving other people. And the whole understanding of it is a little bit different. And I also think it's also because it's coming from education, the education system. There's not a lot that you can do here in terms of study in hospitality or tourism. There's 3 schools that do very overall touching base education. While I told you how my school worked in France, we went and actually worked, even during the 5 months of studies, we were 1 week in school, 1 week in practice, 1 week in school, 1 week in practice, all different, we got a full feeling of it. Here in, especially in Singapore, I'm not too sure about the other countries around us, but especially in Singapore, I know Australia has a great school, but especially in Singapore, it's just very like on the top somewhere, it doesn't go too deep. It's only the tip of the iceberg that we get to see of hospitality, so people are not even understanding the full aspect of it. So that's why they're not getting passionate about it enough. That's one. And then number 2, what I would like to change is hotels and restaurants to be more sustainable. I think it is definitely lacking, and the world should be going in that direction. And obviously tourism is something that is, if the whole tourism would change and the whole aspect of hospitality would change into a more sustainable way, I think the world would be a much better place to live in, honestly. And I know that a lot of hotels are making an effort already here in Singapore, like Resorts World has changed all their straws to paper straws. There's less waste, and when I worked in several restaurants here as well, we had made adjustments in the kitchen of how to manage the food waste, etc. So I think it's very important to go that direction, definitely. That would be a great change for the whole world.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, I love that. Now, I just want to go back to the point where you talked about the education system, the difference between Europe and in Asia, about how the education actually could have shaped the mindsets of the people working in the industry. So, one of the things about, like in Asia, it used to be known as the place where you get the best hospitality it is something like rumored in the whole world, the best
Yeah.
hospitality. We don't discount France, because France is also, a level of its own. Yeah. And yeah, and what do you think is the difference in the mindset between the Asian mentality of hospitality and the European mentality of hospitality?
It is true that Asians naturally are more warm people.
Mhm.
So we would think, and even when I came here on vacations before starting to actually live here, so I'm
Mhm.
talking about my experience in Thailand, in Singapore, and
Mhm.
Bali, when I came as a tourist, before I lived here. People seem so warm and so open and so nice, but then at the same time in the hospitality, in the hotel, it seems like it's just a job for them. While in Europe, um, and I'm mainly talking about Brussels because that's the only place where I worked actually for like a job for 2 years and a half. So I'm not even talking about my internships. I think hospitality there is a way of life.
Mhm.
It's it is you're with your colleagues constantly. You live with them. You eat and sleep with them in the same building. You share. It's a big community, and I think they take it as a way of life, as literally as a way of life. While here, it's just a job. So I think there's a big difference in that
Mhm.
mainly.
Mhm. Okay.
Although Europeans are more cold in their appearance and culture, and Asians supposedly are more warm.
Mm.
When I now compare the two, it's actually the opposite. In not all the cases, not at all.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that
Of
it's just
course.
like that. No. It's
Yep.
just what I came across
Yep.
and what I've seen most of it. But of course, there's exceptional cases where, oh my God, there was a horrible service in Europe, and at the same time, I've got some amazing service in Asia as well.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we don't stereotype, but I guess
Yeah,
it really does matter. I do agree in a lot of aspects as well, because I find that the mindset is very different. There is a mindset of servitude. So
yeah,
they in Asia, but then there's a mindset of decision making and empowerment in Europe, and that makes it different, because you're more accountable in what you do. You have the power to make the decisions in one side of the world, and the other side is you got to take the instructions all the time. And that's how I find, like, it also might have shaped the way they do their work, because you don't feel like, you're challenged or you're powered enough to actually provide whatever you can,
yeah.
right? You
Right.
don't have, yeah. So this, great. I love this. Okay. Okay, Anna, last question, my favorite question of all questions, because this is something that I think really, really keeps us grounded in this industry. So, what is your one word core value that you have emulated in your journey in hospitality?
I can't do it in one word.
Okay, sure. As
I'll put
many
it,
words
put
as
it in
what?
2 words. Um, in 2 words, extra mile.
Oh.
Extra mile is something that I've learned already back when I was part-time in a small cafe.
Mm-hmm.
People are grateful for when you are human and when you give something not because you are supposed to or you have to or because you paid for it, but because you actually genuinely want to help or want to do something for them.
Mm-hmm.
Extra mile. Always go extra mile, whether it is for your customer, whether it is for your manager, for your colleague, for your intern, for whoever, honestly. And it will always pay off. Yeah, that's
Thank
my
you
motto.
so much. Thank you so much for your time, Anna. This is a fantastic chat, and like we could talk on forever, yeah,
Yeah,
about this. I think we can talk on forever, but like I mentioned, we will have more discussions in the future, and like
yeah,
we would love to hear from you more, Anna. We want to learn the human touch from you as well. So thank you so much for
sure.
joining me on Heartbeats. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Kylie, for invitation. I think it's a great initiative, and what you're doing is absolutely amazing, bringing all these people, us professionals, semi-professionals together. So thank you very much for the invitation. I'm happy to
Oh,
be here. I'll
thank you
see you
so
again.
much. Yes, I'll see you. Thank you.
Bye.